Joining me for this episode of the podcast is the brilliant Tom Clarke. Now, I got to know Tom through doing just content basically for Everton Newsfeed / the Toffee Blues, and out of the relationships that I've made within the football industry, within the short time that I've been working in and around it, I got to say I got to know Tom pretty well, and we've developed quite a decent relationship, and we've become quite decent friends. Obviously, as you can tell, we're in and around the same age. I think he's born 97, I'm born 98. We're both, I don't know as far to say, unfortunately, we've been cursed with being Evertonians, so we also share that in common. But I think what provides some good insight into mine and Tom's relationship is we've had, several nights out together, and not too long ago, obviously before lockdown, we had a night out in Manchester. I think this actually might have been the summer transfer window just gone. I think it was in and around that time. Typical early 20-year-olds night out. We've had one too many beers, and we were seriously hungover the next morning. Went to Wetherspoons over the road to get a breakfast, and despite the hangover, all we could talk about was football. Be that Everton, be that English football, be that Spanish football, just football in general. And by that afternoon, I think we were both on call together recording something about Jonas Larsell, who Everton had just signed from Huddersfield at the time. But on to Tom. He's the part of the media team, or the media officer at Marine. What would you call it, Tom, the role that you've got there?
I think it's media team at the moment. It was a media officer in the job description, but the role has changed slightly. So we've got a head of media who's come in, who's a little bit older, to guide us young lads along. So I think it's defined as media team at the moment.
Okay, cool. I found it really quite funny that in their Twitter bio as well, they've got Liverpool's premier non-league club, which I thought was brilliant. But yeah, as I was saying, we both contributed a hell of a lot to Everton Newsfeed / the Toffee Blues and their growth over the past couple of years. And although we are on similar paths at the moment, I know when we finished doing our A-levels, we had took different paths altogether, because I know you were a budding athlete. Tom, my sport when I was playing was football, and yours is 800 metres.
Yeah, athletics. Yeah, obviously, when I was younger, I was well into that. I was like I was up there with the best of the country at my peak, and it's faded a little bit since then. Obviously, it was a massive focus back then. I loved athletics. I still do. I still train to this day, try and get back to my best. But my priorities have shifted a little bit. So career comes first now, or budding career comes first, and athletics comes second. But yeah, I still love 800 metre running. Back in the day, I was quite good, around 1 minute 52 for 800 metres, which is quite a good time at the age of 17. Since then, I haven't been able to reach that peak. But I went on to get a sports scholarship at John Moores University, which is why I went there, to be honest. And I still love athletics to this day, still train with the same group. But yeah, the priorities have shifted a little bit.
No, that's bloody hell, mate. I wouldn't be able to get anywhere near that time, even if I tried. As you say, I think it's brilliant that you got accepted on a sports scholarship. Somehow, beknownst to me, I got accepted on an academic scholarship by UCFB, so there must be brains in there somewhere. I don't know, but as I was saying, we have took quite different routes to get to a similar location. But just to sort of set the scene, obviously, for people who are listening to this podcast, some are aspiring to get into the sports industry, some are already in the sports industry and looking at the likes of us. How would you describe the path that you've taken so far to get where you are today?
I've kind of took every opportunity I could. I've kind of, from a very young age, I was blogging for several different sites. I've blogged for loads of different football sites during my teenage years. Everton, Tranmere, horse racing, boxing. I've done all sorts in terms of sport media. But since then, it's kind of developed. So I've gone to university and I've taken some more opportunities. I've done some work experience with the Liverpool Echo and with the Times, and I've worked with the BBC a little bit as well. And obviously we do radio appearances with Talk Sport and other stations through the Toffee Blues work. But I've been very keen. I'd describe it as a proactive approach to a future career, because I'm trying to get myself in the best position possible to have a good future career in the media industry by taking every opportunity I possibly can and reaching out for ones that are a little bit ambitious as well. Like the Times one in London, I was expecting to get that, but just try and be as proactive and ambitious as I can to set myself up as well as I can for the future.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's something that's certainly something that resonated with me when I come to getting to know you. Like that proactive approach of, you're not gonna land a career by sitting on your backside. You have got to go out and pursue these. As you say, some of them may seem a bit far-fetched, but you never know until you try. An interesting debate that I wanted to discuss with you, Tom, was that of being within the club environment compared to being on the media side of things, or an external media organisation. As you said there, we both collaborated doing things for the Liverpool Echo and their Everton podcasts. I know definitively, as I said before, when working within the club environment, your experiences are majoritively with Marine, the club down in Southport. So could you go into your roles and responsibility there and how that's changed over time? Because you've been there several years, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been there a couple of seasons now. I think it's only still a season and a half. I think I joined in January 2019.
Okay.
And obviously we didn't finish this season. But yeah, pretty much a season and a half. But I joined it was a media officer at the time, and it was just a few responsibilities like come to the games, watch the matches, and write up a quick match report at the end for a couple of different outlets, non-league paper, the Liverpool Echo, and the Marine website as well. And over time, it's changed to include different responsibilities, such as live tweeting on several platforms. So while I'm watching the match, I'll be updating Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the same time. And then after the game, I'll be interviewing players and the manager as well. And it's through the week as well. I pretty much add content to the social media to grow the presence on social media, because it wasn't maximized before I joined the club, the social media presence. So I thought I could try and grow that a little bit, which I've been trying to do through new content with the club. But now my responsibilities have reached kind of, they're growing all the time, really. They're still growing now. I've been working on some advertising on social media with the club at the moment for a couple of campaigns that they're working on. And I'm enjoying the fact that the roles are ever increasing, because that means there's more opportunities for myself and more doors opening, more chances to work in different aspects of the media as well, which sets me up better for the future. But yeah, in terms of the debate between club and media, that's something I've mulled over quite a lot since working with Marine, because obviously I was aspiring to work in the media, and that was what I had my heart set on. And then I experienced the club side of things, and I was thinking, kind of, would I rather be on the club side of things than be on the media? Because it seems sometimes like the club holds all the cards, and the media have to collect stuff off the club. So if you're working for a club, you'd be on the intelligence side of things. You're kind of in charge. So I suppose in some aspects I'd like to work for a football club rather than the media, but I'd love to work in either. I'd just keeping my options open at the moment to work in either, because anything to do with sports media is what I love. So either side of it, whatever opportunities I get.
Yeah, definitely. And there are many examples of people who have spent several years at, say, obviously this is just a local example, us being from Merseyside. There are plenty of examples of people working, for example, Radio City or BBC Radio Merseyside. Those being examples of of media organisations that have made the crossover to working for an Everton or a Liverpool, or being within the club environment. Interestingly, I feel like a great sort of example to draw upon when having the club media debate is, I have had plenty of absolutely fantastic experiences within my, relatively short career so far within the sports media. I've been in a control room for a Tyson Fury interview. I've recorded a podcast at Wembley Stadium, and this may be the Evertonian in me coming out here, probably the best memory that I've had to date was one that I shared with you, in that we went down to the Howard's Way premiere. We were at Goodison Park in the lounges, carrying out interviews with the players and people in and around the club. And I don't want this to come across as if I'm complaining, but it was very much an eye-opening experience and a huge learning curve, in a sense, in that we very much got made to feel like we were the youngest in the room. And now I know it was predicated on the side that we're in the 80s, and you've got many members of the media that were alive and there to witness that side, and therefore may have took precedence to a bunch of 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds trying to interview their dad's heroes. But as you say, it was very eye-opening to see that, the clubs are the ones that hold all the cards. And when you're in that position, you have the luxury of withholding information, being very strategic in what your moves are. And for me, what I've found, obviously I've worked with a lot of different clubs, Bolton, Bury, Accrington Stanley, that the best things of being on the club side, one of the best things about being on the club side of things is the relationships that you develop, not only with staff, but with the players in particular, young athletes who are on the way to, touch wood, successful careers within football. And I feel like it's only topical to discuss this at the moment, Tom. The man that's making all the headlines at the moment for a very selfless act is Manchester United's Marcus Rashford. He recently launched a Make a U-Turn campaign online, which was encouraging the current government to revoke their decision to withdraw free school meal vouchers for children in need of free school meals during, certainly a very unprecedented time. And I know that's a term that has been abused more than anything over the last couple of months. But with the ambiguity surrounding not just we felt it, I'd say, being part of sport over these last couple of months, but in terms of education as well, the ambiguity surrounding education, it's certainly done no favours to children and those families, be it in lower income families or single parent families that depend on institutions such as education to provide things such as meals. And I feel like it's only relevant to give Marcus Rashford 100% of the praise that he deserves for starting this campaign and taking the initiative, because very often you see in the media players are demonized, because like we've discussed this previously, that at the start of the COVID-19 lockdown, the group of elite footballers came under fire from the government for what? Can you remember exactly what it was? I believe it was Matt Hancock come out and criticised the sort of the income. Was it the portion
saying
of
they
income?
should be doing more. If they're on these kind of wages, they should be doing more to help out the communities and those who are struggling, I think.
Yeah, I think I don't want this to turn into a government bashing session, but many do forget that footballers are, for the most part, working class lads that come from underprivileged backgrounds. I know Marcus Rashford went into detail in his recent press releases that he was subject to really tough times growing up. I think he was part of a single parent family with 5 siblings and had to depend on other people to come through for him. And the fact that he is in a privileged position as he is now, for him to take that stance and direct his energy and his reach towards making a change for the better socially as a whole, I think it speaks to the volumes of what football can achieve. So I just thought, in terms of discussing it, like you'd never think that you get 2 lads from Liverpool singing the praises of Manchester United's number 10. But what were your initial sort of reaction to Marcus Rashford's campaign?
I was shocked, to be honest. I wasn't. The fact that a footballer, a young footballer, had reversed the decision of the Prime Minister is amazing, to be honest. And I thought it was a pretty, obviously I don't want to bash the government as you said, but pretty cruel decision from the Conservatives to take away school meals at a critical time for people where people are really struggling. Some families won't be able to afford school meals, and taking away those free school meals at a time like this reminds me of Thatcher with the milk. But for Marcus Rashford to come in and turn that around is absolutely unbelievable. It shouldn't be down to him. He shouldn't have to come in and do this. But the fact that he has a young footballer, really in the early stages of his career, I know he's been around a few years, but he is still young, and he's come in and done something so mature and unbelievable. And obviously, it shouldn't be down to footballers. I think what Hancock might have said was to help out the clubs. If the clubs are struggling, they can take a wage cut rather than the communities. But Rashford's gone the extra mile and helped out his communities as well, and the whole country. And he's came out as well and he said something about England in general, helping out his country. And I think he will go on to become potentially an England legend in the future if that young England team can go on to win things. But that'll be for his work on and off the pitch, not just his efforts on the pitch, which are unbelievable. He's obviously a young star on world level, I think, to be honest. So his work on and off the pitch is amazing and must be recognised. And we're discussing whether it could put him up for the BBC Sports Personality of the Year. So some calls on Twitter for him to be nominated for that award. Obviously, that comes down to his sporting achievements as well, which depends on what he wins with Manchester United this season and next, before December when it gets decided. But for his efforts off the pitch, I think he's fully deserving of any nomination or award that he's given, because to do this for such a young lad is just unbelievable. So big kudos to Marcus Rashford for that.
Most definitely. And I think just off the top of my brain, I think he has done work within his local communities, delivering meals to those that are underprivileged. And I believe this scheme that he's managed to reignite will help out around 1.5 million people up and down the country. So, as you say, for someone 22 years old, he's certainly got a mature head on his shoulders. And I think it puts to bed, in a sense, that sort of preconceived ideas that footballers are arrogant, especially in this age of social media, when they seem very much a world away from your average Joe. I think this is a very pleasant reminder that they are normal people with a social conscience, and when they have it within their abilities to make an impact socially and ignite a social change, that you go on to do so. Now, on the topic of football, finally, after a very, very long wait, it seems, the monotony of lockdown is going to be eased a little bit for us. And now I know we've had the Bundesliga back for a little while, and La Liga had recently got the wheels back moving again. But this evening, being the 17th of June, we are going to be treated to Premier League football again. Tonight, I think it's Aston Villa against Sheffield United, and a very important game in regards to how quickly the Premier League title will be given to Liverpool in Manchester City against Arsenal. Tom, are you happy that the football's back?
Yeah, on some level, it's sometimes what I've seen over the past couple of games. I watched the European games as well, being in the other domestic leagues, and it is kind of a shell of football is back. It's not football is properly back. It's back in some form. It's not its full form, but we'll have to make do with it for now because we have been missing it so much, and we're fortunate to be able to find a way for football to be back in any shape or form. So this is how it's back for now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it being back. Obviously, it's not the best time for Everton to come back. I would rather a few more games to get us ready for the derby rather than going straight into the derby on Sunday. But that's what we've been dealt with, so that's what we're going to have to deal with. I would like a few friendlies as well from the club with other teams as well, ideally. I've seen the highlights a couple of times of the intra-squad friendly that we have, but I don't think that's enough. I think that looks like a training session. But yeah, I'm just happy to have football back. So I've been watching the Bundesliga when it first came back, watching out for John Joe Kenny for the loan report, seeing how he's getting on. And then obviously Barca being my second team, I've been watching them for the couple of games they've been back as well. It's been interesting, but it is a shell of football. It's not proper football, but it's what we're going to have to deal with for the foreseeable future.
In terms of fake crowd noise, are you for or against that?
Yeah, I think it's very subjective. It's up for debate. A lot of people have different preferences. Myself, I'd go against it. I think it just sounds like FIFA noise, and I'd rather, to be honest, just have natural. I'd rather turn it off and just. It is a bit tedious, but that's the reality. I'd rather have that than fake crowd noise because you're always thinking as well when a goal goes in or when something happens. I'm always thinking that that's not real. That's not real crowd noise, and I'm thinking of what's going through their heads and the people who are operating it and how it's done. And that's distracting me from the actual game. I just want to watch the game. Personally, I'm against it. I'm for some of what they're trying to do. I think rather than having empty seats, you may as well have something there, which is, I was saying about watching Spain with the Spanish football. They've been covering with some kind of filter the empty seats with advertising sometimes, and sometimes it'll be fake fans covering the seats. I think Barca did something last night where they covered the Camp Nou seats with shirts and then sent them off to fans afterwards, which is really good. But yeah, I'm not really for fake crowd noise. I think it's a bit cheesy, and none of this kind of music and stuff as well. It's all to enhance the viewer's experience when it's obviously going to be restricted for some time, but it's as I say, it's down to personal preference, and that's going to be very subjective. So as long as the media outlets kind of leave them optional, then I'm happy. Because I'm sure it would upset quite a few people if they just put crowd noise on, and that was default. So I'm happy that there's the optional choice of it. But yeah, it's not for me, to be honest.
No, I share that same sentiment. I feel like it comes across as too forced, too manufactured, and the fact that, you know, for example, when I've been watching some of the German games, you've got, you know, crowd chants being blasted through the audio, and you're looking around and there's no fans there, and I don't know, psychologically it might have a positive impact for the players, particularly for the home teams, to spare them on in a time where, you know, it certainly is unique to be playing football in front of a grand total of 0 people. But what I want to go into now as well is, obviously we've been subject for the last couple of weeks, which, I mean, I know a decision's finally been concluded now that the Merseyside derby on Sunday will be played at Goodison Park. In my humble and insignificant opinion, I think the fact that that was ever under debate is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I understand that there are reservations about crowds gathering, particularly for a local game. Few games in the UK are as local as a Merseyside derby. It's just, a walk away from Stanley Park that separates the grounds. But what were your initial thoughts when you seen, like, for example, Merseyside police coming out and saying, we are deliberating whether or not this game is going to be played at Goodison? And I know at one point the Athletic said that it maybe hosted at St Mary's.
I think that's a national viewpoint. I'm not sure, I thought Merseyside police were kind of erring towards, it's going to be safe, and it was kind of more national from the FA coming from them. They're not sure whether it should be played at Goodison Park, and that seems to be quite a centralised London point of view, that it's the Scousers, they're going to cause all sorts of havoc, whereas when the actual local authorities such as Joe Anderson came together and just said it's going to be all right, it's going to be fine, and I fully expect that it will be as well. There's not going to be chaos, people clamming St Luke's Church and stuff like that. To hold it at Southampton, to just put it on complete other side of the country, just in case Scouse has got the train down and cause havoc, is just ridiculous. To be honest, we're not animals. We know it's not the age of football hooliganism anymore. I'm sure people will be content to watch it at home as we have to at the moment, respecting the rules. So I thought it was a bit ridiculous, and it should be fine that it's at Goodison Park, but it doesn't really bother me where it is. It's an empty stadium anyway. We have to play it on an empty pitch. It's not really home advantage because we haven't got any crowd. We have played that inter-squad friendly at Goodison Park, so I suppose they've got used to it to some extent, and we won't have to do long travelling, because we shouldn't have to travel to Southampton for a home game. I think travelling's a big part at the moment, especially when you're playing games every 2 or 3 days, like some leagues are trying to do. Home games where you don't have to travel are quite important, because players will be tired if you're playing every couple of days. So I think that's a factor as well. But I'm happy it's a Goodison because I don't think there will be any trouble.
I agree. And one of the things for me, Tom, is that on the home advantage thing, I know you said you don't feel like it would be much of a home advantage, and I would agree to an extent, but I'd raise the argument of the geography of it. Like, as you were saying, the extreme travelling certainly takes a lot out of you. And yes, I know this Merseyside derby, as I say, it's only a hop across Stanley Park. It's not that much of an advantage, but by the same token, I think for team sports, it's so significant to be playing in a place that you're familiar with and that you've got the grips with. It doesn't matter as such when it comes to, I use the example of combat sports because that's, limited people. And I suppose this is within the context of COVID and the sort of being in close proximity and contact. Like, I still have my reservations about the fact whether football should be going ahead. I mean, if everyone's tested and everyone comes up as negative, or they've got the antibodies, then I suppose that's okay. But there's always that sort of risk that is parallel to it, given the fact that you are seeing feedback from some of the tests saying that we've got 1 or 2 that have tested positive. And I mean, I suppose in a sense that, for example, the Premier League has sat back and watched the Bundesliga resume. I'll use the phrases, the Bundesliga has been the guinea pig, really, for outsiders to look at and see how they've operated, see how they've conducted themselves. Like you were saying before, this provides a unique opportunity for broadcasters to maximise their coverage of things, with there being less emphasis on the crowd and that element of the viewing experience being taken away. It really does put the focus onto broadcasters and what are they going to offer as part of boosting the viewing experience for those watching at home. Now, part of me feels as if we've been primed to view football as a product in a sense, since the huge increase of broadcaster monies have come in both domestically and from overseas. And I know that apparently the ruminations of the options of being able to select what crowd chant that you hear for your TV set. For me, interestingly, I think I'd like to see a more unique approach taken on interviews. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing managers interviewed more regularly, or say media personnel having closer access to the pitch during play. But what would you surmise the media's experiences in relation to football at the moment? Because I know, as a sport, say in comparison to basketball, football and the media is very secretive, and there is a very much a closed door approach. So as a sort of, if you summarise from your experiences and what you see from elite level football today, what do you make of the relationship between sports and the media?
It's going to have to change temporarily, and whether that has implications for the future as well, past this new normal, remains to be seen. But yeah, it is going to have to change to enhance the viewer's experience while they can't be there, because it's not the same watching an empty stadium with basically what looks like a training game. So they are going to have to add things and change things, and whether that is through in-game interviews, I'm not sure. It's been interesting seeing how a few different countries do it, and a few different broadcasters as well, because I've been watching, for example, La Liga from a US broadcaster. So watching that compared to watching, for example, La Liga TV or somewhere more local is different. So how international broadcasters broadcast individual game can change depending on where you watch it from. Obviously, that's from a streaming point of view, but in England, Sky are going to dominate. Obviously, we've seen the Amazon Prime and BBC and BT will be given rights as well. And I think they'll all do it differently. So we'll be watching different games with different options. So obviously, the likes of Sky might come up with the ideas of choosing your own chance, and then we'll watch it on the BBC and might have a completely different experience. So it's going to be all over the place. I think personally at the moment, different broadcasters are going to be doing it differently, but we are going to have to adapt and find some sort of compromise between these different broadcasters. And I'm not sure if they'll have time to do that before this current Premier League season finishes. So I do think at the moment the relationship between football and the media will be strange and adapting, and it maybe will go back to normal in the future, but it's going to be a little bit different at the moment. We're going to have to get used to that. And yeah, as we say, it will be all optional, but how much it's going to change, I'm not sure. I do think it will be a little bit intrusive to have in-game interviews, but if that's what some broadcasters want to do, and if the clubs agree to that, obviously, which I don't personally think they would, that it could bring football and the media closer together, and that could have implication for the future, but that remains to be seen. That's all speculation at the moment.
Yeah, there is definitely, I feel there's going to be an adaptation period where, as you say, it may very much be all over the place, but fingers crossed they do compromise and hit a middle ground where it is more a more beneficial relationship with the media and football. Something else that I wanted to get into with you, which I think it would be interesting to get your sort of perspective on this, is that we did touch briefly on the fact that, we didn't want to come across it as government bashing, and we're both from Merseyside, we're both from Liverpool, and as you mentioned when talking about that sort of debate of whether or not they should hold the derby at Goodison, that sort of southern perspective on things. I know you predominantly write. You've got a preference towards writing compared to sort of audio and video content, and you are a very talented writer. But have you found the fact that you're from Liverpool or the fact that you're from Merseyside a factor that has sort of impacted your experiences within sports media? Because as you say, you've worked with so many different organisations in such a short period of time.
Yeah, it definitely does, especially with the likes of podcasts where people are hearing your voice, and people sometimes can't understand it from other areas, which is a big obstacle. So you sometimes will have to tone down your accent, which is obviously changing the way you speak isn't ideal. But I think some people enjoy regional media. We were discussing the likes of commentators like Ray Hudson, his Geordie charm, he wouldn't be the same, and other people within the media with their regional accents and dialects. It adds to it, I think. But sometimes it can provide an obstacle. I remember when I did work down with the Times in London, it was a very different atmosphere than I was used to, and it was very different to, for example, the Liverpool Echo officers. The experience I had with them was quite enjoyable and casual, but the Times I found was quite not. I loved the experience with the Times, but some people were had different attitudes than up here. I think it was sometimes quite middle class, and I kind of saw the north-south divide a little bit in terms of attitudes down there, as enjoyable as it was. But yeah, I suppose it does provide an obstacle sometimes, but it can be to your benefit sometimes. I suppose, like I worked with BBC Bite Size at one point doing a campaign with them, and I was kind of like the northern scouser, the sporty one of a group of people from all around the country, and they wanted to represent different areas as well. So it can work to your advantage, but it can be an obstacle, and it is frustrating when it is an obstacle and people can't understand you. But I think people have to move with the times and accept that people are going to have different accents, and you're just going to have to try and understand them.
Yeah, I'd say so. I've most definitely experienced it. In that, for example, when you are in and around, just hypothetically, say for example the BBC, and you don't pick up on many sorts of regional accents. It is very sort of formal and Queen's English, if you will. That change remains to be seen. I think obviously you have got your regional media outlets, but that breakthrough moment, I think, is yet to be seen. And the only examples I feel like of those with a regional accent within the media are those that have had established careers within sport themselves. So, you use the example of Ray Hudson, who was a player, I think, and then you've got say for us, our more regional examples are Jamie Carragher, Steve Gerrard when he was doing bits for Sky, and you go to the likes of Manchester, and you've got Gary Neville, who does a lot of stuff. So I would say that there's an obstacle there that needs to be overcome in terms of getting. I don't want to seem like I'm campaigning to get more Scousers in the media, but that is very much feedback that you do get from audiences of ours. People who watch your stuff and leave comments on your stuff. It's like it is very nice to see the feedback is saying they're saying carry on doing what you're doing, keep it up, because we need more people from round here within the media. So how would you say your feedback has been received from people? And do you take much note of the comments and stuff that people leave on your stuff?
Yeah, especially with the Toffee Blue stuff. I see comments because they have viewers all over the world, from America as well, because obviously we've got Jerry and a few other writers as well from America. So we have viewers from America who try and sometimes struggle with their accents and leave feedback saying, I've had stuff like you say too much and things like that, and stuff I've tried to work on myself, but it's just something I have to deal with, I suppose. Obviously I do prefer writing to speaking, but you have to do both in the media nowadays, especially as a aspiring young media person. Then you got to be adaptable. But Yeah, you've got to take notice of feedback just to improve yourself, I suppose, in the future, so you can come across better and come across more easy for people to understand, because we do have that obstacle of having a Scouse accent, and if we are going to put ourselves out on a level for other people, even from different countries, to understand us, then we have to adapt to what people say. I suppose sometimes it is negative feedback, but a lot of the time people leave positive feedback as well. So you've got to listen to both and take it on the chin and kind of use it to improve yourself, which is crucial at our stage, obviously an early stage in our other media careers. We've got to take any feedback on board and try and use it to get better.
I would say so. And as you know, I'm very conscious of saying now, but as you know, I had plans of going over to the US and Canada this summer. Obviously, they've been very sharply put out. But you know, you've got the examples of the Beatles and Wayne Rooney going over to the US and taking it by storm. So fingers crossed, we do have that reach in years to come as we progress through our careers. But and just to sort of wind up on the career side of things and the professional aspirations, before we just go into more, what are your hopes and ambitions as you progress within sports media?
At this stage, I'd say to keep as many doors open as possible. I wouldn't want to narrow myself down. So I've had thoughts that I would like to be involved in the club side of things more, but then to be involved at a high level within the media is something as well. I know we've discussed in the past about, if you were working on the club side of things, there's kind of a level to which you can reach. You can be the media officer at a club, and then that's kind of it. Whereas in the media, you can start out at a low level as a junior journalist. You can progress to within senior journalism, editorials, and progress from a local outlet to a national one. There's more opportunities for advancement than within the club sector, I think. But at this stage, I just say to keep as many options open as possible. I'm just starting my master's in sports journalism. I've been studying English and creative writing, which I'm not massively interested in, but I've just been doing it to broaden my horizons for the last 3 years. So I'm finally going into the degree that I want to do. So at this stage, very early stage, I'd just say to keep as many options open as possible. But obviously, I want to be successful in whichever side, whether to go down the club route or the media route.
I'm sure that you will be. As I touched on before, like, you know, with finally the return of the Premier League, and I've hit this very nerdy stage of lockdown where I'm reading academic texts on the return of elite level football. I was just going to touch on one of the texts that I'd recently read, which is the return to elite level football after the COVID-19 lockdown, by someone of the name of Magni Moore. I hope I haven't got that too wrong. Mohr. It's one of those et al. Where I think there's many different collaborators, including Dr. Dan Parnell, who I've spoke to several times over Twitter. But something this text outlines, is that this resuming football isn't going to be anything like what you see when players kick off a season after a pre-season. Players, obviously, with the implications of the COVID-19 pandemic being around, social distancing and hygiene levels and cleanliness, like, to stay 2 meters apart is going to be awfully hard when you're man marking on a corner kick. You know what I mean? So
our players do.
But it leads me quite interestingly to what I was going to say. Everton obviously have been subjected to a hell of a lot of injuries in the short space of time where they've been preparing for the relaunch of the season. And one of the things that this paper outlines is that the football specific movement patterns and the anaerobic demands of football are very hard to replicate through individual training regimes. And I know we've had discussions before, like obviously we both look after ourselves to the best of our abilities, and my knees and my ankles, because the gyms are closed, they're absolutely done in off running up on the concrete for so long. But just in terms of, I'd say Everton, if we're going to make this a more Everton specific conversation now, we're obviously missing some players ahead of the derby. I know Fabian Delph, Theo Walcott, Andre Gomez is, touch wood, going to be fit. There was obviously concerns over his fitness, but I think, where are we in the table now? 12th, 11th?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, for me personally, that doesn't make for very good reading. It makes me feel a bit sick, actually, the fact that we're in the bottom half of the table, but nothing to play for. But what do you think we can look to achieve within the short space of time before the season concludes?
Some sort of stability. I was saying this on Talksport the other day when you were asking me what can we achieve. European football's unlikely, relegation's unlikely. What is it we can achieve? And I think the teams that are above us, we are in a unfortunate position of like 12th place. But if you look at the teams who are above us that shouldn't be above us, the likes of Wolves and Sheffield United, they've been playing the same way for years, and every player knows their specific role and what to do, and our players don't. So if we can achieve some kind of stability in a solid style of play, whether he pursues with this 4-4-2 model, Ancelotti, and each player learns their specific roles within that formation, then that'll set us up well going into next season. And obviously, it's an opportunity for Ancelotti to get a squad, to know his squad a little bit better as well, to get to know his squad a little bit better, and where to improve it for the window whenever it comes around, in what shape or form it comes around. But just to gain us some more stability and get used to playing under Ancelotti. He's not this big scary man who's won loads of cups. He's our manager now. We have to get used to that. We don't have to be in awe of him anymore, and we can. Yeah, every player's got to get to know his role, and I think that will be crucial for us going into next season. So the restart could be very beneficial for us in that way of setting us up for next season, getting that game time, and it's like a bit of a pre-season, but playing against Premier League sides. So we can, for us, there's not much to play for, but if every player can get to know their role for next season, then the restart's been great for Everton, in my opinion. If that is to happen, I don't know if it will, but it could prove very, very beneficial going into next season if we do it right.
Yeah, and one of the things that was concluded from the article is that, the academic text, sorry, is that the likelihood and probability of injuries is going to spike, because obviously an individual player's fitness is subjective. Everybody has their own idiosyncrasies. Everybody knows what works for them and what doesn't. And I personally still think Everton are in a transitional period. I personally think that we've been in a transitional period ever since David Moyes left the club, really. I think we were in a really fine position when Roberto Martinez came to the club, and we developed really high marketable assets in the likes of Romelu Lukaku, Ross Barkley, John Stones, and I'd go as far as to say Gerard Deulofeu was in with that as well. I'm highly critical of the club's decision to let all of them go at once, because I do feel like that stripped it stripped our identity again, and we've spent the time since then of trying to assemble some sort of an identity. Obviously, we sort of had that. I don't know what are they called? Defibrillators when in the hospital, when people get them two things and they go clear, bang. When whatever they're called. When Dunk came in, that's what I felt like that was to the club. It was very much a sort of a quick fire way of igniting some passion back into the club, and we've obviously got an esteemed name now in Carlo Ancelotti, as you say, and our two most marketable assets are Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. And I hate to say it, but it does come across at times as if we are DCL and Richarlison FC. Like, just how much they sort of determine games. And as I was saying, I feel like we're in a transitional period, and there are still players that we are going to have to look to shift to form more of a better identity. I've got my reservations whether or not that means having to sell Richarlison on, obviously, because there was ruminations of Barcelona being in there looking to sign him prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. And as you said, Tom, we are going to be looking now predominantly at the likes of, what was it, loans and free transfers?
Swap deals as well.
Swap deals, sorry, yeah. So how do you think we're set for the next couple of years if we do want to shape that identity?
I do think keeping hold of Richarlison is a massive part of that, because I do think if anyone buys into the club at the moment, especially from out of the foreign players, it's him. He really gets the club, and it surprised me how much he's come in and he's grabbed hold of that, and he's kind of he knows Everton and he loves Everton already, which is more than you can say for some of the players who've come in from different countries and haven't understood that and haven't got to grips with that, and even players within the country who've come in and not really understood Everton properly and just saw it as a career advancement opportunity, a stepping stone of some sort. But yeah, to regain an identity, we need some sort of stability. As I was saying, it's been very chopping and changing over the last few years because we haven't had that manager stability. I thought Ronald Koeman might come in, and he's a respected figure, so he might be able to steady things. But he obviously had that really difficult period where he became to look a bit like a homeless man, and things went south a little bit. But no, we had Sam Allardyce came in to steady the ship. No one liked him because he didn't get the club again. Marco Silva, a lot of people, I'd say 50% of fans had the reservations about him, at least when he first came in. And that eventually, when it came to breaking point for him, a lot of those preconceptions were raised again. And is he the right man for the job? But now we've got a manager who everyone's happy with. I think we can start to move towards some sort of stability, providing he sticks around. I hope so. And by the sounds he's making, it sounds like he will. He's happy with sticking around for the project that we're building and that we've been trying to build for a few years now. So if he can achieve some sort of stability with Ancelotti and he can shape Everton into a specific model that he wants tactically, then that'll be our identity. And it's down to Ancelotti to build on new identity, because we have to let go of what Moyes built, kind of a shoestring budget, bringing in players from the Championship. And I think we're past that now. I think we're going towards the model of buying top level players, hopefully not past the best. Rumours of Thiago Silva, things like that. But we're looking towards building assets from the youth as well. Obviously, that's what Marcel Brands is coming to do. Make it more of a more efficient business model, I suppose. But to gain some stability, I think a lot of it is down to Ancelotti and his tactics. But now that we've got that management stability, I think we can start to move towards a new identity. And it probably won't be like the old Everton identity, and we'll have to unfortunately let go of that in some ways. Still got Duncan Ferguson there, still got old faces like Seamus Coleman, Leighton Baines there, but we are going to have to move towards the age of Ancelotti, hopefully. So it'll be down to him to make us to build our new identity, and obviously build a new stadium soon as well. So it'll be down to moving forward rather than looking back over our shoulders.
Definitely, and just to echo that, I feel like that's reinforced by the fact that we have signed relatively short deals with the likes of, our new kit manufacturer Hummel and the frontier shirt sponsor Kazoo. I believe they're only around 3-year deals, which would lead us up until we are set to make the stadium change to Bramley Moor Dock, which, touch wood, will be in a more lucrative position, making European competitions and challenging for silverware, so we do look more attractive to the more premium brands, I suppose. And Tom, just to wrap this up now, it's been brilliant to talk to you, mate, and I'm sure we'll do plenty more of these over times. But for Sunday, Merseyside derby, as we've got older, there tend to be occasions that we don't usually enjoy. But what are your predictions for this game?
I've got a bad feeling, to be honest. I had a dream the other night, and often when I have a dream, it's not very good because it comes true to some extent. That it was basically a training game for Liverpool, and it was they put the ball in the back of the net, we jog back to the centre circle. They put the ball in the back of the net, we jog back to the centre circle, and I could see it being genuinely a training game of about 8-0. I don't want to predict that. That was the dream. That's not my prediction. It's not a very good dream. It's more of a nightmare. But that was what happened in my head, and I hope that doesn't happen. I hope Ancelotti's able to provide a bit more of a backbone than we've seen in previous defeats, the couple of 4-0s, and obviously even this season, the 5-2 was it earlier with Marco Silva. But hopefully we'll be able to do a bit better than that. So anything but a loss. I'm hoping we hang on maybe for a sit back for a 0-0 and just ride the wave, hopefully. But in terms of predictions, I'm not very ambitious, but I'd like to say a 0-0 draw. Just keep them off. Just as long as we keep them back, because they've played at least one friendly against an outside club and we haven't. So I think they are better prepared for it than we are, which is unfortunate. So it's going to be a really difficult game.
Yeah, and I mean, fingers crossed, Manchester City do the business against Arsenal tonight, so that we don't have to endure the fact that after losing the league at Goodison Park last season, that they go on to in fact win it at Goodison Park this season. I mean, we could have the integrity argument, but I don't fancy being bombarded by complaining Reds at the moment. I don't know. I hate that mentality of anything but a loss, but I think we can shoot for a draw on this one. And I'm going to say me optimist is calling for a draw. Tom, it was a pleasure to catch up with you, mate. I know we've got a couple of things lined up for the future, so just to get people aware of that, to keep their eye out for them. And I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Yeah, nice one for having me. It's been a pleasure.